Hey everybody, good afternoon. This is Dr. Mark Arcuri coming to you from Santa Fe, New Mexico today on the occasion of this winter solstice. It's December 21st, 2018 at exactly 3:23 p.m. and this is the moment of the winter solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. Wherever you are in the hemisphere, in your time zone, this is the time. This is it, winter solstice. And this is where the Earth kind of shifts and we begin to make our return to the light from the dark of the past 6 months. And as you probably know, we have solstices twice a year, one in the one in the summer and one in the winter. And on the alternate quarters, we have our equinoxes, which is a whole different thing. And we'll be celebrating those as well, coming up with the spring equinox in June. So today, though, we have the winter solstice. And the winter solstice, as I said, is the return of light from dark. It's also the pagan celebration of Yule, Yuletide. There's some other words for it as well. I can't remember, but in honor of that, you can see on my screen down here, I've got my Yule log burning. Hopefully you can see that. And it's kind of a chilly day here in Santa Fe, so it's sort of perfect to have that on the screen, even if I don't have one going in the house at the moment. But darkness turning into light and that return of light from darkness. And it's so important. And I think this year in particular, it's a metaphor for the world that we're living in. We're coming out of a very dark period that's been going on, at least here in the U.S., and not to get into politics too much for the past couple of years. And I think some people would say prior to that as well, and that's fair. But regardless, we're in this opportunity now with the change of the seasons and the coming of winter and the solstice being upon us, the winter solstice, of coming out of the darkness. And I believe that if we can come together and use this period of time, this next 6 months, in a very intentional way, then we can truly make shifts of global proportions on our earth. And that's the message I'm here to bring you today. But before we can come out of the darkness into the light, we have to endure the darkness. And darkness really is a time of rest and rejuvenation. People think it's a time of dormancy, and on some level it is. We do rest in the dark, but it's also a period of rejuvenation when we're evolved enough to use it that way. So I think of bears, they're going into hibernation and we think that nothing happens. They sleep for however many months they do that. And they're sleeping, but yet their body is continuously building itself and nourishing itself on the stores that they've taken in before they went to sleep for the winter. So the body is very much active during that time. And it's the same when we're asleep at night. And when we're getting that rest that we need at the end of the day, we may be sleeping, but our body and our mind is absolutely rejuvenating and using everything that we've given it along the way during that day and by our lifestyle habits to build itself up for the new day ahead. But as I said, when we're evolved enough to use it that way. And I think our world today gives us ample opportunity to break down that process. So many of us go to sleep at night, but we don't get very restful sleep. So our body is not really building itself up the way that it could be. And we need to make some changes to enable that to get back on track. But, the darkness, if we're not using it as a time of rejuvenation, and we're just sort of going through the motions of perhaps going to sleep during that time, the darkness kind of makes a void because truly nothing is going on during that time. And that void is sort of like a vacuum. I like to think of it as the black hole in space, which I think, and I'm not a scientist, but I think we're sort of revisiting what a black hole is. But essentially a black hole is this place in the universe where when things get too close to them, they just get sucked in because it's like a vacuum of nothingness. And nature doesn't like that very much. When things get sucked into the black hole, they get drawn in, but they also get destroyed. They get obliterated. But eventually, that's unsustainable. If the universe had these black holes out in space and things were constantly being drawn into them and obliterated, eventually there'd be nothing left to get obliterated. There wouldn't be anything left to be drawn into that black hole. So eventually, even if it's in a different place in the universe, the system gets replaced by a more harmonious system that is sustainable. And I think that's where we're at in our hemisphere and in the world at large right now. We're in this place of finding that everything going on in the world and our politics and our wars and our relations with other people and the way that we're running our lives is largely unsustainable, and it's not very evolved for many of us, and certainly on a global scale for most of the countries that we are in association with. So there's a need for this more harmonious way, and we have that opportunity now going into the light from this dark period to begin in a very intentional way bringing back that sustainable way of life. And here's what I think is going to happen. What I'm feeling as I contemplate the next 6 months, as we go from this winter solstice to a summer solstice, where the process switches and light goes back into darkness. What I'm feeling is going to happen is that we're going to find during this time that we're coming into more and more authenticity, of our own personal authenticity. And that's where it all starts, of course, right? We start at home and we build it into the world around us. But we're going to be coming more and more into that authenticity and less tolerant as we do of people and situations and systems that are not authentic to themselves. You know, I've been doing some consulting work with an organization for years, and there's a lot of this inauthentic behavior going on, and it's being ramped up as a way to sort of deal with things that are really being caused by the inauthenticity, but they feel like becoming more inauthentic is the way to deal with it, and things are just falling apart. And we're seeing that in our government. You know, yesterday here in the United States, James Mattis resigned, the Secretary of Defense, and caused this chaos, and you can't tell me that that's a coincidence. You know, we're coming out of this dark period, and here's this man who uniquely in the free world anyway has the ability to say I'm finished, and to cause shock waves to reverberate throughout the continent and throughout the planet. And he did that. So is he doing that as he begins to come out of his darkness into his light, and saying that there's no price for being inauthentic that's high enough for me to be inauthentic. And when I realize I'm being inauthentic, I've got to go back to my authentic self. And when I do that, there's no cost that's too high. So thinking about him, thinking about his going from his inauthentic self in his job and saying no more, I'm moving into my authentic self now, it creates a huge shakeup. But that shakeup is worth it on a certain level. And I think that as we go through the next 6 months, we're going to see more and more shakeups like that. And they may be in our personal lives, or they may be on a global scale. And remember, from chaos comes order. I don't remember who said that, so I can't give credit. Maybe it was Einstein. But from chaos comes order. Always, always, always. The same with the black hole. The black holes cannot sustain themselves by constantly killing off everything that comes near them. Eventually things begin to shift. And so we'll see this greater chaos in the coming months in our relationships, in our government, in civil unrest. But we have to remember that even on a grand scale, if we go back to things that we never thought we'd revisit in our history and begin repeating them, remember that in the end, having gone through those, they all made us better in some way. And that will happen again. You know, darkness, that period of darkness, the neutral zone that I wrote my dissertation on, the place that we go into when we're in transition, and it's a very lonely, scary place, but there's always another side. We always come through it if we allow the process to happen. And when we come through it, we find ourselves in a place of transformation, and in that transformation being far more authentic to who we really are. But we've got to be willing to go through that darkness first. So we're in a much needed rest period that's beginning today, a much needed rest period for the spring equinox that'll be coming, and then the summer solstice, I always get the words confused, that'll be coming after that. It's a much needed period of rest, But at the same time, there's a lot going on inside, and we've got to begin bringing that out as demonstrations of our authentic self. It's no surprise that we began this process in our conversations on Facebook Live and in the podcasts uh, a few months ago. And, the whole conversation has been about authenticity and how we can get closer and closer to that in our own lives. And now we're, though, at the place where we can begin actually using what we've learned. Even if we're just starting, we can begin using every bit that we've learned to move forward and to come into our own light through our authenticity. And it's not a coincidence, like I said, that we've been laying the groundwork for the past few months. So the next step, no matter where you are, whether you've been listening to the Facebook Lives or listening today for the first time, the next step is to take whatever piece of authenticity that you have and to begin living into it. In my book, A Life Aligned from 2008, the last step is living into our intentions. And this is an opportunity to live into our authenticity. It gives us the ultimate in honoring that place within ourselves that is true and a true expression of who we really are. So what I'd like to do now is take you through a bit of a meditation that will reconnect you with a piece of who you are, perhaps a piece that you weren't aware of, perhaps it'll reinforce a piece that you were aware of, but it'll give you a starting place to carry you through for the next 3 or 6 months as you begin to be more authentic and begin to send shockwaves through your world with the purpose of being who you really are, so that the universe can align around you with the people and the things and the experiences that really honor that and make your world a much, much better place to live in. So what I'd like you to do, if you're in a place that you can close your eyes for a moment and just sort of relax into the moment. If you can't do that, you can just listen and perhaps do it afterwards by watching a replay or a podcast. But if you can, close your eyes for a moment and just take a nice, slow, deep breath in and hold it for a few seconds and then exhale. And just continue as we go through this exercise to breathe in at a similar rate and just sort of slow your breathing down a bit. It's a signal to your body to relax and let go of anxiety and that there's nothing to be reacting to. It's just that you're in a very calm state. And when you're ready, I want you to think back to a time when you were younger. Any age is fine, but as far back as you can go when you were a kid. And when you have that image or feeling or whatever it is that you do to connect to that time in your life, it doesn't matter if you can identify when it was. Ask yourself, what did I really, really want back then? More than anything, what did I really wish I could have or experience? Was it a special doll or a toy? For some of us, maybe a more harmonious family. Maybe it was that your family had a bit more, gave a bit more, or both, did a bit more activities, anything at all. There's no right or wrong, good or bad. What was it that you really, really, really wanted and wished you could have back then? And now holding the memory of whatever that was, however you may attach to it, whether it's an image or a feeling or just a sense or maybe a taste, a smell. Ask yourself, what was the reason that I wanted that? And you're asking this question from your more developed mind now, not your mind back then when it may have been more superficial. I just wanted that thing, maybe didn't know why. But with your more developed mind now, what was it that you were really wanting? Was it perhaps an experience of joy? An experience of greater peace? of greater abundance, perhaps. Maybe the experience of more giving back. Again, there's no right or wrong, there's no good or bad. But what was it that you were really, really, really wanting when you wanted that thing or that experience when you were a kid? There was something that told you that I want this. What I'd like to suggest to you is that whatever that was, whatever the reason was that you wanted, whatever it was that you wanted, whatever it might have been, that reason represents a very deep core part of who you are. It's something that is critical for you to experience in the world. And by virtue of that and keeping things in balance like the universe likes it, it's not only a core part of you that you want to experience in the world, but it's something that you want to give to the world. So again, what was that you really, really wanted? And can you see that whatever it was, it's something that is so core to you that you feel like you have to have it to exist on this earth. And because it's so important to you, you want to give it to others as well. So let's take that now. Let's take that something that you really wanted, and let's turn it into an intention. Intention that you can take on your journey this winter solstice, as you come out of the darkness, as you come out of that place where maybe you didn't experience a whole lot of that, whatever it was, and move into the light. And let's set the intention to manifest this very thing over the next 6 months. Maybe not right away, because again, we're just coming out of the darkness and our bodies and minds and souls are still nurturing themselves. But at some point, we're going to emerge from that slumber and let this intention be what you will manifest at that time, whenever you come out of that slumber. And what you can take back then into the summer solstice as you go back into darkness to rest in a much more healthy and productive way. It's a very powerful metaphor, isn't it? Coming out of the darkness into the light, using that time to rejuvenate, and then taking that strength back into darkness. When we do that, we can use our manifesting powers to authentically be who we are and to create our world in that image. So let's set the intention now. What will it be for you? Is joy part of your core, authentic self? Is it to experience joy? And then is part of your role here to create joyful spaces for others to experience joy? If that's part of it, then your intention might be, I experience joy today in all of my manifestations. And I give even more joy than I experience in all I do. And so it is. I experience joy today in all of my manifestations, and I give even more joy than I experience in all that I do. And so it is. Perhaps abundance is core to who you are. Then the intention might be, I experience abundance. I give abundantly. I am abundance. I experience abundance. I give abundantly. I am abundance. So take a moment and come up with your intention, whether it's one of those or one that you jot down yourself. And if you'd like to, share it in the comments below. Share it on Facebook, in the replay, share it at drmarkarcuri.com. Send it to me in an email if you like, which you can do from drmarkarcuri.com. And just put it out to the world. Intentions are never more powerful than when we put them out to the world. But we don't do that indiscriminately. We do that where they will be received and honored. Not the people that we know are going to kind of poo-poo them and take them away. So if you haven't opened your eyes already, go ahead and do that now. If you have some paper nearby, jot down the intention that best expresses that core value that you got in touch with. If you don't have the opportunity, maybe you can speak it into your phone when we finish, or just hold it in mind until you get to the place you can write it down, but write it down, put it out, let us know what it is. Let us get into a discussion about it if you like. Post it on your mirror, all the good things that Louise Hay taught us to do with our intentions and affirmations, put them every place. But as this winter solstice happens around us now, and now we're 15, 20 minutes into it, and as it comes through us over the next 6 months, let's be real clear that we have an opportunity to be authentic to who we are, and to do that in a way that just exudes that authenticity, so that the universe gives us back everything and everybody that can honor that. The people that will not honor that, don't want to honor that, the situations that don't support us are going to go away. But it may get a little bit rocky over the next month or so in the meantime, because when we begin to really become strong in who we are, if that's different than what we've been, it's going to make for a rocky road for a little while. But I promise you, through this solstice, that will shift. And I promise you, you're going to see that in the world as well. The changes that have been happening lately, and the eruption yesterday with James Mattis, is an amazing, amazing opportunity for order to come out of chaos. And don't underestimate how powerful that can be. Thank you so much for being here. Lots and lots of love and gratitude. And I look forward to following with you on this journey. Take care.